It makes me uncomfortable that you're in a relationship with Sarah. End it now, or I'm ending my relationship with you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. You're listening to There's a Lot to Unpack here. My name's Mickey. My name's Vicky.
I'm Aaron.
I know that you guys yell at us a lot for interrupting each other. Can't help it. I'm not sorry.
We're doing the thing. Someone said a term to it, and so now it's okay.
Yeah.
We got a term for it.
I think it was Magnolia. I said collaborative overlapping.
Yep. We just collaboratively overlap.
That's what we're calling it.
Our conversations are a bloodbath.
So, yeah.
We always put it together
also,
in the end.
too, like, this is our conversations cleaned up.
I know, honestly.
This is us really trying.
Yeah.
Which is a wee bit embarrassing, but it is true.
I'm fine with it. When your brains meld into one,
yes,
then it's fine.
Yeah.
We're
telepathically connected, so it doesn't matter if we interrupt each other.
I feel like it's like that thing when you're like a teenager and like you wouldn't understand. They love me like no one's ever loved me before.
Yeah, you wouldn't get it.
You don't know what true love is just because you're old and burnt up and not burnt up.
That was so surprisingly dark.
No one is burnt up. Speaking of getting burnt up, I know we've tried this several times now.
What?
But I just have to. It's gonna get brought up every single time.
Huh?
How are you supposed to walk away after you get done bowling? What is the appropriate amount?
I don't think there is. I think it's one of those things that just feels embarrassing, even though it's not meant to be embarrassing.
Can you guys please let me know? I just want to know what other people's feels embarrassing, but actually isn't embarrassing things are. Like for me, it's like my water shoes. Like if I'm going anywhere with water, like I'm wearing my water shoes.
Water shoes are actually embarrassing, though.
That feels so rude.
They
are.
Why?
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
Protect your feeties.
Yeah, but they look silly.
That's some dork shit. I won't lie.
Yeah.
But like,
also,
if I'm in the ocean,
don't say that because that's not true. You said if I'm going anywhere near water, I'm wearing water shoes, and that's not true. I promise you, Aaron's not wearing water shoes to the pool.
When I take a shower, I specifically wear water shoes.
No, you don't ever wear water shoes unless we go to the lake.
Okay, it's treacherous.
Well, yes, it's fair. But like, you don't wear water shoes anywhere else. Like, please don't have the internet visualizing you wearing water shoes like to the water park and to like the beach and the ocean. Like, that's not true. That's embarrassing.
Oh, when we were in Hawaii forever ago, I still to this day I don't know how it happened, but we had been at the beach for hours.
Yeah.
And when we got back to the room, I obviously dropped my shorts. And
why are you telling this story right now?
And when I dropped them on the ground, I was like, God, these are so heavy. And I flipped them inside out and just like a handful.
Yeah.
Like a literal handful of sand.
We literally had to like scoop
it into a pile. Where was it? Where was it?
Where
were
shorts.
They in my shorts?
They weren't
literally
in my pockets. In your shorts.
They weren't in my like, they must have been in the liner or something. But how did I not feel? We walked for hours. I had like, honest to God, half a pound of sand in my drawers.
Listen, I just don't relate to that because like bikini bottoms are so like there's no room in there for anything other than your bits, and so like I cannot imagine.
I had a lot of bits that day.
Having sand in my underwear and not noticing.
I must look like a baby with a poopy diaper.
You probably had diaper butt.
And this goes back to, and it's like the ocean is such a fickle mistress because it's between that and then the jean shorts when I went to the beach when I was a kid, and I've chafed a chafe that I've never chafed since then.
Are you just telling everyone about your butt cheeks today?
No, the chafing was my legs.
Is that
why are you insinuating just because of the sand? It's not in my butt.
I would have known. Somewhere.
Stuff just falls in there sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, between your cheeks.
It happens to the instead of between the ferns, we should have done between the cheeks and just have like a cheek on each side.
I guess now I'm telling everyone about your butt cheeks.
Yeah, you putting my
literal ass in the
I can't even turn the other cheek on this one because you just see the other one.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are we unpacking today?
We're talking about polyamory today.
Yeah, I know that because we talked about this before the episode.
We've gotten a couple of questions about this. I really thought you were standing up to leave, and I was like,
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm not filming this. I'm not filming this episode.
What the fuck? We've gotten a couple of questions about our particular relationship orientation. And there are like some definition words in polyamory
that you'll be sharing with us today.
Yeah. I will be sharing with you.
I am not great with, I'm not going to lie. I work in feelings.
No, you are just so self-critical.
You're such a good talker. You speak words so good.
Whatever. So we're talking about that today. And then we're also answering some questions about like our own particular opinions on like different like polyamory structures. To be clear, before we get into this though, Aaron and I are not fucking experts in polyamory.
No.
The podcast generally is supposed to be a place where we're able to just kind of be people and
ourselves.
and talk more about like the real life application of the theory based stuff that we talk about on the main channel videos. So this is especially going to be that because we have done our own journeying with polyamory, and so this is our experience. This is like as it relates to our life, but like by no means on no planet would we ever prescribe our thoughts and opinions as like the way, because that's also the nice thing about getting off the relationship escalator is like that's the whole point.
We talk about it all the time.
You're not supposed to be trying to force other people to do things in a particular way.
Well, and the cool thing about having a crinkly, wrinkly little brain too is that you can learn new things and grow and evolve and as we learn new definitions and we learn new phrases and ways to describe feelings and emotions.
Then we evolve our opinions on them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should really normalize changing your opinion when you get more information.
Because that's the thing too, we talk about all the time. Like if we went back a year or 6 months or even like after this episode goes up, I'm sure we'll have learned.
Well, I'm
or
sure
like,
we'll discover something new about ourselves.
Like, oh wow, we actually prefer it this way or like do it this way or like it's just an ever evolving, ever changing thing. And also too, I think the cool thing about that too is it's so human centric that it's like the thing that's always important to me, and I always tell this to anyone I'm ever in a relationship with or like in communication with is that like I know like this is like kind of like actually no, I think it works, but like the flexibility of allowing yourself to like make the relationship look how you want it to look with each individual person and taking it like it doesn't like there's no rigidity there for me. Oh my god, did I just say that? I'm not gonna say it again because I don't want to jinx it.
I know you said it correctly for the first
that's
for the
one of
first
my
time.
That's one of my
you have a hard time with the word rigidity.
I know it's a lot of
it is a little bit of a difficult word. I feel that way about the word edited. But yeah,
good for me. But anyways, like I was saying though, it's just nice to not have this rigidity to like you can just make your relationships look however you want and make them applicable to the person you're with. Which is the nice thing. Like not everyone has to look the same.
I think that's the other thing that's important as a takeaway from this conversation is that even for people who feel most comfortable aligning with one type of polyamorous relationship, it's not a foregone conclusion that all of your relationships will be that way. It's not like this sort of prescriptive like rule-based thing where like if you decide as like a solo poly person or like a polyamorous person with partners
or a monogamish person
that like I'm interested in garden party polyamory, that like you're never allowed to have a parallel relationship or like a more involved relationship or like a triad or something, like that's not real.
That's the beauty of it is that it changes as your like needs and your desires and your wants change too.
I think there's a very interesting conversation to be had too about how people's approach to their relationship structures will change over time.
That's totally understandable as you learn new things.
Well, and like based on what's happening in your life and your emotional availability and like your schedule and stuff, honestly, that is another important thing to think about when like finding your comfort level with like the type of relationships you're engaging in. People say in polyamory all the time that love might be infinite, but time isn't.
Time is not, and I can attest to that too, because that's the other thing too that I've ran into is that like there are certain times when like I'm very like deep in relationships and like interacting with several people at a time. And like I very much do the thing. I do the tropey thing where like my personality very quickly becomes those people that I'm around, and so then I lose little bits of myself. And so like right now like I'm trying to work on an album again. And so like I've like taken a step back.
To be more like in yourself.
And so again it's just like a lot of work. To like it's I truly you just don't, because I know you get the comment all the time like I have enough trouble with running a relationship or managing one relationship.
I don't know how you do it.
Having and like Google calendars for one.
Oh my god.
But no,
very
honestly though, like it very much, and I think too, that's the thing too, is like, that's the cool thing for me about having this flexible view of it, at least like polyamory to me, is this ability to approach relationships with each, because I wouldn't like the amount of time I give to you would not be appropriate to give to someone else. Maybe that I was saying on a casual. Exactly. And so I think leaning with that energy too, and like like, and also too I think having a seat at the table too is something we've learned a lot, is that like an
earned thing and not an entitled thing.
Not giving everyone as much access right away too, because also like that sometimes can bite you in the ass.
Well, and there's like a safety aspect to that too, right?
Of course,
that like
absolutely
protecting the people that you're in relationship with who have earned your trust sometimes requires you to tell new people that like I desire for you to have a seat at my table, our collective table, but like I can't just be giving those out to any like Tom, Dick, or Harry. And so like in order to protect the emotional safety of these other folks and myself, like I am sort of going to hold you at arm's length for a little while until we have developed some more trust like and like a consistency and a stability that like allows me to feel safe to like fully integrate you into our life. You know,
that was definitely something that I got myself caught up into in the beginning. It's just like out of the gate, right off the bat,
like the equality thing.
Like everything must be perfectly equal, must be perfectly fair. And I think unlearning that expectation has been like super helpful, at least for me. Because obviously too, I want things to be equitable and like
of course,
fair,
there's also a lot of discourse about that in the polyamory circles too. That's kind of toxic in my opinion.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, so we entered into polyamory as an already married couple, which is a somewhat common thing for folks to do.
I know. We thought we were such
I know. We were like, well, and also that like we felt like outsiders in the community, only to learn that like actually a lot of people do this, right? There's just like some considerations that you want to make ethically when doing that. But there's a lot of discourse in the polyamory community, sort of in the sense of like, in order to be an ethical polyamorous person, you have to be giving everyone equal time, equal access, equal, blah, blah, blah. And like, especially around the rhetoric of like primary partner and like hierarchical polyamory, that like, if you are practicing any type of hierarchical polyamory, that you're like not a real polyamorous person, or that you're like being a toxic polyamorous person. And
which is funny because poly is like doing things the way you want, at least in my, so like by breaking these like stereotypical cultural values, but then like you're instilling new values. It's like new cultural value that's like right and wrong. Yes, like we didn't trade this for another set of rules, basically.
Yes, exactly. Which I think also gets to the point of this episode, which is that I want to be super clear, in addition to us like not being experts and not wanting to like prescribe our way of doing things. It's also important to hold that in your mind, that like everyone will find a new or different or like slightly varied approach to practicing essentially like non-monogamous relationships. And like, that's fine, right? Like for me, the thing that, and I guess for us,
in my opinion, it should be encouraged.
Yeah. The thing that we continue to come back to is that as long as everyone involved is like consenting to that, they feel seen, they feel valued,
you're communicating.
Everybody feels like okay with the agreement that we've reached, then like there's no reason that you can't structure your relationship like that. Again, as long as it's not hurting anyone or like creating any kind of harm or like inequity, which is another thing too, that like relationships ideally are equitable rather than like 100% equal all the time. And I feel like initially too, we kind of got caught up in that like everything needs to be perfectly equal, otherwise we're being unethical. And like that's not true, right? No. Like relationships can be equitable and like not perfectly equal in the sense of especially our time. I can't devote the same amount of time, especially to a new partner, that I devote to you, because like we live together, we own pets together, we like share financial entanglement, we own a business together, we have to be doing this shit, like we can't be devoting that same amount of time. And that doesn't mean that our relationships are inequitable
or like less valuable or less important.
Exactly. It's just that the time spent is going to be unequal sometimes, and that's fine as long as everyone agrees to that.
And I think I always will come back to food because I think it's just the best way to describe things. But like, as you would have different types of foods and seasonings, like every relationship has its own flavor.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
I like
so
that. Sprinkling little seasonings.
Yeah, no, every you don't have to season everything exactly the same.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I don't think you should. Exactly, yeah.
So let's get into some definition stuff just to clarify what the fuck we're talking about, especially for people who don't know, because you're probably a little annoyed at us for just yamming on for this long. So
I don't know. I think if they're here, I think they like. I like to think some of you like us.
You guys like us. So there are many different definitions and ways. We're going to cover some of the more like popular or like commonly discussed.
I think like the most, because I think that's the other thing too, is more people enter into it. It seems as it grows in popularity. Then like just like there will continue to be new terms and new phrases and new ways to describe things. Which is totally fine and understandable. And like I think sometimes too, I feel like sometimes some of the energy is like the like our parents like, oh, those damn kids and their music, they don't know what good music is anymore. I feel like it's the same thing with relationships sometimes. They're like, well, you're not doing it polyamory how they did it, how we did it back in the day.
And like just let people do things,
and like,
man.
I know, just let people figure it out.
Let people
along
have
the
things,
way.
God.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about the more like common ones. The first of which being parallel polyamory.
Okay.
I'm sure that there are other terms for this, but like our general understanding of this is that parallel polyamory is more of a like I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're like moving alongside people.
Yeah.
There's another definition that's also key here that we should talk about, which is metamor.
Oh, yeah. There's so many. Get ready for the definitions.
I know. Yeah. So metamor basically refers to your partner's partner. So if you were dating somebody named Sarah, Sarah would be my metamor, right? Metamor basically meaning that like you are involved with them and they're your partner, but they're not my partner.
I should have brought a graph.
I know, we need like a little diagram.
Like one person, like I'm here, like I'm here.
Yeah.
And then you're over there.
Yes.
And then Sarah
and so it would be on your side of the thing. This is why
it helps to like a
graph.
Or what's the
like a genogram?
Polycule.
Yeah, well that's what I was literally about to say, is that this is why people refer to their circle as polycules, because it does start to look like a molecule after a certain point. So yeah, metamor basically meaning like your partner's partner.
Yes.
And parallel polyamory basically meaning that you don't directly interact with your metamors at all, or you interact with them very, very little.
And I think another term that's important too. So then in that situation, I'm the hinge.
Yes.
So
yeah, you're the hinge partner there.
Sarah's over here. Aaron is here. Mickey is there.
Yeah.
Mickey and Sarah are inadvertently
like on opposite ends of this, not in opposition, but like, you know,
no, yes, but like sides. On the opposite sides.
Yeah.
And I am the hinge. Like think of a door.
Yeah, you're in the middle.
Yes.
Basically. Yeah. And so basically what that means then is that in a parallel orientation, people will vary in their personal approach to like disclosure, right?
Totally.
For some people, parallel polyamory means that like I wouldn't even know that Sarah exists. I wouldn't know Sarah's name.
We don't know you're going on dates with Sarah.
Like a firm don't ask, don't tell policy. But for some people, parallel polyamory basically means that like I'm aware of her existence. I'm aware that you know, go on dates with her, spend time with her or whatever, but I don't directly interact with her. It's not like I have her phone number. We don't have a group chat. We're not like sitting down and chit-chatting,
having a drink together. Yeah, absolutely. So if you were doing that though, what would we call that?
So that's like the sort of middle ground one. People call this garden party polyamory, or sometimes people call it kitchen table polyamory.
I like you said something about birthday party.
Yeah.
That's not a term, to be clear,
No. But
it's a good way to...
the energy here is that in this more like slightly more involved arrangement, people use the term garden party or kitchen table to describe this phenomenon of like if you and your metamor were sitting at a kitchen table together, or like if your hinge partner had a birthday party, everybody would be there and everyone would feel comfortable with that. It would be
like a weird, award.
Yes, it's not like I pretend that you don't exist, or I don't have no
like
concept of who you are. But also the key distinction here would be that I wouldn't be romantically or sexually or like, you know, involved in a relationship with Sarah outside of just like the mutual respect of like, we both care about you.
Exactly.
We both want you to be happy, right? I think this, for a lot of people, seems to be like the approach that especially like new polyamorous people vibe with the most. People seem
the kitchen or parallel or kitchen
table garden party kind of vibes. Because it seems to be like the more community oriented approach for a lot of people. And this is also the approach that tends to be most commonly associated with like the chosen family thing, right? Like the polycule thing. Because in a parallel sense, depending on like what your involvement or lack of there is, you're not like really interacting with these people, and so your relationships kind of remain independent. Like, you know, Sarah would still be on the polycule, but she's not like a part of my life necessarily.
No, not like coming over to the house and like
exactly
having Sunday dinner or whatever.
So that's like sort of the brief overview for kitchen table garden party vibes. The third one that a lot of people are aware of is I have heard it referred to as lap sitting. I'm sure that there's another term for this.
I feel like I've heard another term, but now I can't think of it. But I think
same.
After hearing it again, I think I know.
Yeah. Lap sitting polyamory basically meaning that like either you and your metamors are like very, very involved in each other's life, or that you are like romantically involved with each other. A lot of people call this like a throuple situation. Personally, I just fucking hate the word throuple. I don't know why. I just hate it.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I don't like it. And
like
it's just
the meaning behind it, or like the word itself?
I think it's like the mouthfeel of it that really irritates me. I like the word triad better.
Triad. I do like the word triad.
Yeah, I think also because polycules kind of remind me of geometry, so triad just like makes more sense.
Oh yeah, then throuple sounds more like a fling to me. It's a perfectly fine definition, of course, to be clear.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But
you can use whatever words you want.
Triad sounds a little bit more scientific.
Yeah.
It does sound a little more geometrical.
To me, it just sounds more adult too. I don't know why.
You know, I kind of get that though, in a way that doesn't make sense, but it does make sense.
Okay, good. Thank you for tracking.
I'm picking up what you're laying down.
But yeah, so like lap sitting polyamory can be either like the trope that a lot of people are aware of with polyamory, because we see it popularly represented in media. or like really it's the only representation in media that polyamorous people get, which is the like communal collectivist, like that episode of the How to Build a Sex Room show.
I knew exactly where you were going. I knew exactly
like,
immediately.
There's 9 of us and we all live in the same house and we all sleep in one bed and we all have group sex every night. And like for some people that's a reality and that's a wonderful and like valid orientation, but it's worth pointing out that that's somewhat rare, right? The odds of that happening are not super high. Yeah. I think a lot of people are also sort of
or they are and we just added ourselves.
I know, yeah. I don't think so. I think the other problem with that, though, is that it can steer people away from polyamory because, the thought for people is like, I could never do that, right? I could never live with 8 other partners.
I'm not quite sure I could. Yeah, same.
Like, how do you manage that? And like, again, for some people, that's a reality and that's great. But first of all, it doesn't have to be. And second of all, I don't know that it's like the most commonly occurring. I think for a lot of people, like the parallel garden party thing tends to be the most common.
Well, and I think too, that's the interesting thing about it too, is like very much in the beginning, my understanding of it was like, oh, if you're polyamorous, you have to have like
multiple
35 partners at a time and make sure everyone
and be constantly
is
dating also.
Yeah. And everyone is at the highest tier of like intimacy and involvement and disclosure and like communication.
Yes.
And like that simply doesn't work that way.
No.
Like they're like,
no.
You really... I think too, especially for us, because we were married for so long prior, like I think we forget sometimes how much energy and like care and compassion has to go into a relationship to grow.
You get to that place.
Yeah, and like also too, if the other person isn't putting that in too, then you're
sort of in a weird spot of like, what are we doing? Yeah. So yeah, I think the sort of logical follow-up question then is like, what approach do we employ in our relationship? I'm curious what your answer is going to be. Because I don't know that we've like officially had a conversation about like this is our orientation so much as we have like had conversations about like for this relationship this is what feels good, for this relationship this is what feels okay, I
feel like almost for me too, like I wouldn't label it, but I think like currently at the moment like parallel obviously sounds the most, but also with the people you've been involved with as of late, I'd say like garden or like kitchen table obviously feels
like closer to the truth.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't like if I bumped into you guys or something out and about, like I wouldn't be like offended or like, oh like my God, don't see me. No, like it would just be a thing. And also I think, and I can't believe who I heard this from, and it was someone I never expected. But this was kind of like a mindset shift too. Yeah. Is they told me...
I'm trying to suss out who the person is.
Well, there was a situation. Either way, regardless. It's not important. And they told me, the idea that someone else would care for someone else that I also care for a lot. Yeah. And that just means that they have 2 people that really care for them. Is like, I think the coolest thing you can do.
It's really
for
sweet.
Someone. Yeah. Yeah. And like... it's not like a undermining, it's not like an undercutting, you're not like trying to...
It's not like competitive.
You're not like trying to... Yes, it's not competitive, you're not trying to steal someone's partner, like you're just enjoying and getting to be like cool and intimate and connected with someone else and like share that and like, like foster another relationship and like give life, you know, and like put energy into another relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that resonates with me the most too, is that there's a term in polyamory, people call it compersion.
I have heard this. Can you explain it again though real quick?
Yeah, let me just Google it and make sure that that's the correct term.
I haven't heard that term in a long time.
When you Google it, it says something about like sympathetic joy for another person. Basically, sort of in the same vein as like empathy. But like about positive things, right? That like it's very much what you're describing, that like it's just, it feels really good and joyful to see someone that you love also being loved by other people and experiencing happiness with other people. And the thing that's funny about this to me too is that people sort of balk at this concept in regards to romantic relationships, right? Like we get the feedback all the time, both on the internet and from people in our real life, that like, I don't know how you do it. Like I would be so jealous. Like, don't you ever get insecure? And like, first of all, obviously,
I know someone once told me, they're like, oh, polyamorous people don't get jealous.
Like literally,
like, did you evolve so far that you just stopped being a human?
I haven't self-actualized to that degree. I can assure you.
I don't know what self-help meditation you're on, but like I have not figured that one out yet.
Yeah, I am entirely not that person, which is another myth about polyamory, but we can get into that in a second. But that like this feeling of joy and excitement that like we talked about this a lot when we first started exploring like being monogamish and whatever, that like I just want to see you win, man. Like I love you and I think you're so cool. And it makes me so happy to see other people also seeing how cool you are because you're like, I know. It's like the relationship with a metamor is kind of a cool and unique thing because you both get to be like, I know, aren't they so cool? And like they're so sweet and they're so cute and like all this like fun excitement that you share about this person that you both love, but just like, you know, slightly differently.
Yeah. And
it's like a really neat community, like collectivist view.
Yes. And I think for me too is like once you unlearn kind of the ownership thing,
like
the patriarchal views that like monogamy kind of has. And like this,
not all monogamy to be clear, but some of it.
But I mean like generally speaking, like culturally.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, and also the like the competition and the like the stereotypical like winning the like
love means being chosen above all others. Yeah.
Yes, like you were picked above the rest.
That means
like,
they love you the most.
Yes, and like this kind of idea that like to put a person on a pedestal and like you know
100%.
I think that just doesn't like resonate with me like it used to, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think also when you and I looked really deeply at why we felt secure in a monogamous relationship, it became clear that was coming from this place of like, I won, and so therefore I'm better, right?
Yeah.
And like that's not real security. That's not what real stability looks like in a relationship.
I have something that if you left me, then you would fizzle out.
If my self-worth is based on being chosen by someone else, then I'm giving someone else the control of how I see myself, power. Right?
Yeah.
And like that's fundamentally unhealthy. Like that's not a thing that I want to feel.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah. And so for us, like unlearning that about ourselves and then applying that to our relationship with each other, it became kind of like this logical next step then that like, of course, seeing you be happy with someone else doesn't take anything away from me.
No.
You know?
And I think that's the thing too that I think, and I can totally understand that it's a hard kind of like concept to wrap
of course it is.
Especially coming from like a monogamous viewpoint that like seeing... Like you would think it would be an automatic slight to yourself, or like like someone buying drinks for someone at a bar, or like someone, or you're like your partner, your other, or like giving them a compliment, or like saying something nice. Like it doesn't need to be met with this like catty, like
antagonistic.
Like why don't you just go fucking date them or something kind of, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well, in our case, we would be like, oh my god, are you gonna like?
I know, I'd be like, go.
But
I'll go hide in the corner.
But yeah, like it's not a slight. It turns into this like you know that thing when like parents are responsible for their children, and so like anything their kids do, then like they feel.
Yes.
I'm having trouble putting the terms together, but
like
you know what
when parents view their kids as a limb or
an
like an
extension
accessory
of themselves.
Yes.
Yes, and so like your relationship, your other person. I think that's the other thing too is like helping realize. And like treating you like your own individual person.
Autonomous, yeah.
Yes, and like it's not a slight against me. Like I'm not responsible.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and like the choices that I make in my life are not a reflection of your value. They're a reflection of me and my wants and needs and like, you know, all of like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah, I think it's similar in that because when parents do this with their kids, right? Like if my kid doesn't go to college or get some high paying job, then like I'm a bad parent, right? Like that reflects poorly on me, when the truth is that like maybe your kid just doesn't want to go to college, right? Or maybe your kid has decided that the emotional and financial stress of going to college isn't worth it to them.
Yeah.
And that's a choice they're allowed to make for themselves. And like it doesn't have to mean anything about anyone, but especially about you as their parent, you know, because they don't exist as like only part of you.
Yes.
They exist separately in the world as their own person. And so in relationships, it's kind of that like someone else valuing you or wanting to be romantic with you doesn't mean that I'm not providing you with enough.
Like
right?
I'm not doing I'm somehow failing at our relationship.
Yeah.
I'm learning that. I think that's the thing I was trying to get to is like someone else treating you well.
Yes.
And also taking an interest in you.
Yeah.
Is not like a slight like, oh my god, I have failed my marriage.
Yeah.
Like that's not.
I think that's the other key learning that has helped a lot in our journey.
I agree.
Is embracing the idea that we are both simultaneously not enough because no one is, and also very much enough.
Plenty. Yes.
Because like for us, the reality is that in order for me or you to be themselves, to like really honor their own autonomy and their uniqueness and their identity, it will mean then that you can't be perfectly aligned with your partner because there are no two perfectly identical people, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as partners fitting together like perfectly like mirror image puzzle pieces of each other. It's just simply not a reality.
And I think we can attest to that as people who have grown up together very, very, very closely.
Yeah. Well, and especially because we've had to do that identity work over and over and over
like
and over again.
Times. I know. I feel so embarrassed when we were 16, I told you, as long as I never change and you never change, then like what we have will never change.
Yeah, and the truth is that like that's
quite the opposite. Yeah, and I like the sentiment was nice.
It was
but,
sweet.
Like
I liked it at the time.
Little
it made sense in my 16-year-old
16-year-old
brain. But yeah, like there is no way that any two people could be perfect mirror images of each other and have the exact same interests and contrasting opinions and like be the sort of perfect dovetail. Close. Yeah, but like
it's just not,
in the same way that there's no perfect people, there are no like perfect compatible partners.
Yeah.
And so what I mean when I say that like I'm not like enough in that way is that like I want to be committed to me, right? Like I want to be committed to my identity and the things that are important to me, the things that like stir up my insides and make me feel good. And those parts of me that align with you, which for us, it's a lot, are mutually enriching. And it's really life-giving to share those and to like create connection around those.
Yeah.
But the parts of me that are intrinsically me that aren't like particularly resonating with you are not bad. And they're not things that I should abandon. They're things that I can enjoy with other people.
And embrace and like cultivate.
Yeah. And so being able to do that has been really freeing in regards to like, it's not a slight against you to say that like, I really enjoy, I don't know, talking about like, I don't know, plants or like,
totally. Yeah. Like,
like whatever, like other like parts of me that don't necessarily resonate with you, with another partner that like really, really gets that, When
it takes a lot of stress off your plate too, I feel like to be like this person who is like perfectly available and like accessible.
Because
and,
now
like,
you don't have to feign interest, proficiency, like availability for a thing that doesn't fill up your cup. Like I have the freedom to explore that with other people in the same way that you have the freedom to explore that with people that like, it's like the sort of mirror image thing. Yeah. We sort of got away from the topic of like relationship structures, but I'm really enjoying this conversation.
I'm fine with it. I think we're learning a lot of things along the way though, as we normally do.
Yeah.
What is your take on then?
Like what our structure is?
I would imagine.
So here's the thing. When we first...
every time you hit me with the here's the thing.
When we first embarked upon our polyamorous journey, I remember us sitting down to have a conversation about like
several of them.
What do we want to do, right? Which is so naive and so cute thinking back on it, because like you can't plan for stuff like that.
This is
you
my
won't
only
know
advice.
Until you get into it.
I will say get all the safeguards you can in place before you start.
Yes,
but
of course.
Like just be ready for the ride.
Yeah, healthy communication is key, and like healthy conflict resolution strategies is so integral. But also at the same time, like. We had this idea. I think we said initially, like, I think kitchen table polyamory feels like a good fit, right? Yeah. And then as we unlearned this, like, false idea about, like, forcing equality and like, the time thing all the time.
Everything has to be the same and fair for everyone.
Yes. We started to practice more of, like, a parallel approach to polyamory than we did kitchen table, but not because there is like a lack of desire to meet our metamors or because there's like a lack of interest or like, especially not because there's like an insecurity or a discomfort with that, but because to me, meeting a metamor is a big deal, you know? And I know for some people it won't be, but I think.
Because that's one thing I think we definitely differ on is like, I don't know if it's.
Yeah.
Like to me, it doesn't.
It's not as big of a deal to you.
No.
Yeah. Listen, I have a Scorpio stellium. I'm very private. Okay.
I know.
I'm like, I am fiercely committed to being mysterious.
It becomes you.
And so like to me, meeting a metamor is a big deal. I think like I also do this too with like my friends and stuff where I don't even tell people that I have matched with someone or that I'm going on dates with someone. Like I don't think I told my best friend about my current, I don't know if I want to call him a partner, but like the person that I'm seeing until like well after I had sort of established that like, oh, this is a person I want to continue seeing where things go.
Well, and I think that's totally fair too, because the way things fizzle out and just
because it's so fucking annoying. It's
absolutely.
Like selfishly also too, I just find it embarrassing to be like, yay, I'm so excited about this person. It's going so well. And then somebody asks you about it and you're like, oh yeah, no.
I haven't talked to them in weeks.
Yeah,
no, literally.
Awful.
Yes.
So for me, I think it's not so much that we like practice parallel polyamory in the sense that like there's this conscientious decision to avoid it so much as it is like a gradual on-ramp of things, right? Like as I feel safer, as I develop more trust with this person, because like I'm not a person who just gives out trust very easily. I hold people at arm's length for a little while before I feel comfortable.
Understandably
and so like as that gets more settled, then I feel more comfortable to be like, okay, yeah, like you can meet this other partner of mine who's like, you know, constant in my life. Like you are very
someone
much
you can trust that's not going to just like
ghost
you essentially. Like,
well, yeah. And I think that's the other thing that's hard for me too, is that like I take the responsibility of that very seriously. Like I would never introduce you to someone who had the potential to like impact your life emotionally and like potentially hurt you.
Well, we've heard horror stories too, so like
with people who like very much rush that process.
I'm glad those are not our own to
So yeah, I think we are sort of like a mix of the two.
Yeah.
I think like in ideal circumstances, the idea of having that comfortability to like all hang out at your birthday party and like, you know, share big moments in our life, or like especially the idea of like during difficult moments in life to be able to like let your partners know that like, hey, this is going on. Like, I don't know if they'll want to talk to you more than they want to talk to me about it, and like that kind of a thing. That's
that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that's like an ideal arrangement to me. But I guess it just takes time and like a pretty conscious effort to like build up the trust before we get there.
And I think too, to say it too as well, to say we're both picky as fuck would be an understatement.
Oh yeah, we're so annoying.
But and not even from like a labels thing or like like especially after like dating apps and stuff too. Like I just much prefer like organic in the moment connections and stuff,
which is so hard.
Yeah, but we could talk about that.
I know, we could talk about that forever. Meeting people in person is just difficult, especially when you wear a wedding ring.
Especially the whole like dating apps thing is just abysmal.
I know, it's so bad.
But
I regularly think about moving to a big city just so that our experience on dating apps would be easier. But also, I feel like it might be worse at the same time.
I know. I feel like just because, I think that's the thing that I've learned between like Tinder and everything. Just because like generally femme presenting people have more matches doesn't necessarily mean they're getting like more matches. You know,
and well, it doesn't mean that they're good either.
Exactly. No, that's exactly because I emphasize the match.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I meant.
Yes,
by that.
I get what you're saying. Thank you. Yeah. So actually, one of the other questions that we got was about practicing parallel polyamory, but like to the nth degree, where like basically you aren't aware of your metamor's existence. You're not aware of like their like goings-ons or any of that kind of stuff. And I guess the question was like more so, is it possible for someone to have a healthy relationship practicing this like very stringent, almost like a don't ask, don't tell sort of approach?
Yeah.
Which I'm curious your thoughts about.
I've experienced, not with you obviously, but like other people who practice both ends. And I think it's kind of a layers thing. Because I think
please say more about that.
People who are solo poly and like live on their own and like do their own thing and like that sort of a thing, but are uncommitted. Like I feel like that it's almost like one step of, it's like, because I always look at poly too, especially in like the dating phases and stuff like that. It's really just like dating with more honesty.
Yeah,
honestly,
I feel that.
Because I run into that a lot too, where people are like, oh, polyamory, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. How can you date so many
people at the same time?
Yeah, but then like people who are actively looking, especially when you find people who are like on dating apps to like get fucking married basically.
Oh, yeah.
Then like basically checking and testing everyone that you can.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not really doing anything different, but you're just lying about, unless you're telling everyone, because I very much have seen plenty of times where people get upset because like, oh, you were dating someone else when there was no explicit.
Yeah, like, well, we were exclusive, but like we hadn't had the exclusive conversation. So like, is it bad if you were dating someone else, but like, you know,
you
like
weren't
that
like,
kind of a thing?
There was no communication about what your intentions were, your status, or any of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, because I mean, like when I go on dates with people that are polyamorous, like the understanding is like, this is like you're probably dating other people.
Yes.
And also too, like I really don't normally mind talking about other people's dates and stuff, and it's quite interesting
love
to
it.
me.
I think
too.
It's so fun.
But like it's just like I always just kind of make the comparison, like it's no different than dating regularly.
Yes,
we're just on the same page that we're dating other people.
Yeah, well, and I think in the early like talking phase thing, like a lot of people who are not polyamorous are very comfortable with the idea that this person you're in this talking phase thing with, or like this early like dating phase with, are also probably seeing other people. They might be sleeping with other people. That would be my
impression. I would never think that someone I just started
is like exclusive with you already, right? And like people are pretty comfortable to conceptualize that as not cheating.
In my opinion, it's not. There's no
commitment
way.
That's been made.
Absolutely,
there yet,
I would. That's totally fair game.
And so I think with polyamory, it is very similar in the sense that like you're just being upfront that like I do want to date you, I do want to like devote time to you, and you know, emotional attention and like whatever. And also I do that with other people. You know, like I just want to be really upfront and ethical about the fact that like this is the state of affairs, and like you know it it really, like, when you compare, like, when you Venn diagram them, they're really not that different. I think the main difference there, honestly, is like the relationship escalator.
Yeah.
Expectation, because that's also a thing that like you and I have been especially recently, like, a lot more upfront about that. Like, this is the state of affairs here. Like, I'm already legally married, and so of course, if you feel this strong pull to be married to someone, you need to know that, like, this relationship cannot escalate to that point, because, like, first of all, I'm not divorcing my partner. But second of all, like, that's illegal, right? Like, literally cannot do that. I can't fulfill that need for you. Yeah. And so if that's a non-negotiable, then, like, we should just not, wish you the best. See you never kind of a thing. Yeah. And so, like, that's really, to me, the only, like, dividing factor in, like, that approach, you know, like, to me, it's really not that different.
I think going back to your regular question, then, like, don't ask, don't tell, basically. I hate using that term for it. But I know.
I don't really know what else to call it, though.
Yeah, because obviously that has, like, a totally different connotation.
That was the way that somebody asked it to me, and so I, like, sort of latched onto that phrase, as I do.
We'll keep using that phrase because I think it's just easiest to, like, describe what's going on, but, like, very much not associated with what was going on in the military in the early 2000s or actually not even early, like, the whole time.
Like, the whole time.
But I think for me, the biggest thing I've seen for that I don't personally agree with that, or like am drawn to that, is like the safety thing.
Resonate. Oh yes, yes.
Because I've had instances with one of the people, like, they were gone for several days, and I'm not even their primary partner, but I'm, like, in vicinity of them.
It's like a little scary,
and like just no one knew where their partner was.
Yeah,
and then come to find out, like, oh, their phone had died and they had been on a date.
Yeah,
but, like, they had a date for, like, several days.
Which is hard for me to wrap my brain around.
So, could not be me.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're not judging anybody. No. Like, that's fine if that's the orientation that works for you. But, like, for us, I think it's...
From a safety aspect.
Yeah, it's, like, hard to conceptualize that being a thing that isn't alarming on the other partner's end, right? Totally. Like, if you disappeared for several days and didn't tell me, I'd be like, oh, he's dead. Like, I'm calling the police immediately.
After a night, I'm like...
Yeah. Yeah, like, especially if we had an understanding that you were probably going to be home later and you didn't come home.
Too many true
That's what I'm saying. Crime. Yeah, I just, like, from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
I think also the other thing about it that's hard for me is that because we do cohabitate.
Absolutely.
To me, there's, like, some expectation of transparency.
Agreed. Agreed wholeheartedly.
Especially because you and I do have a firm line that, like, nobody's allowed in our fucking house. Unless we, like, explicitly, like, implicitly trust you.
And that's,
And, like, that's hard to come by. I'm just, like, very much a weirdo about it. Same. And I'm fine to own that.
I'm fine with that.
But because we cohabitate and, like, have that boundary in place, not being able to communicate with you about, like, where I'm going, who I'm going there with.
Oh, yeah.
Like, God forbid something does happen, then, like, to me, it just feels important that you know that. You know?
Some sort of...
If we were living separately, I think it would be different.
It would be different. I agree completely.
You know?
Yes.
Because then, like, there isn't this expectation to, like, have my time be accounted for to someone else, right?
Yes.
Like, my cats wouldn't give a shit what time I get home, you know?
No.
But, like, you as my partner, I feel really weird about just leaving you in the lurch of, like, see you when I see ya. Like, that feels very odd to me.
Totally.
To be clear, though, to, like, specifically answer this question, I do think it's possible to have a healthy relationship with that orientation.
Yeah, totally same. And I think, again, too, that's why it's a layers thing. Like, you got to do what works best for you. Because also, I'm not saying we're on the other spectrum where it's very much like there are plenty of grays here.
Yeah.
But, like, also, I don't think personally, like, I don't think you should be telling me everything.
No.
I don't want every intimate detail.
That feels so violating.
I don't want every, like, I don't need every piece of tea, you know?
No.
And I don't think I need to be telling you the same either.
No.
Like there's some... And I not for a reason because, like, it would upset or, like, be alarming or harming or...
Oh, yeah.
But just, like, I just, like, as long as you're safe, you're happy, you're...
Yeah. Well, it also just feels like a disclosure thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the word I was looking for,
I try to think through, or, like, a consent thing, too. Like, I try to think through, would my partner, like, would your metamor feel comfortable saying this directly to you?
Yeah.
And, like, if they wouldn't, like, if we were all, like, you know, having dinner together and hanging out...
all copacetic?
If they... Thank you. Yeah. If they wouldn't mention this to you and feel okay about it, then why would I mention it to you?
No, literally, yes.
Like, that feels like a betrayal of trust. That feels like a weird disclosure. And
same
like
thing with friendships and stuff. Like, and like when you talk, yeah. And I know for some people there is the, like, sort of implied, like, married rule of, like, these people are married, and so anything I tell you, you're gonna tell your husband or whatever. Is that
and
a thing? Like, that's most people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people operate that way.
That's definitely how I operate. Like, if I tell any of my friends or like people who I'm in,
like married or like long-term partner
Totally,
kind of thing.
totally,
I just assume, but I think it's different with polyamory because like that person hasn't agreed to be in relationship with you, especially because like there is a conversation from my perspective anyways.
Okay.
There is a conversation that needs to happen with this other partner about like, what's your comfort level?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, what do you want to do? Because if you never want to meet my nesting partner, then like that's your prerogative. And I'm also going to make a conscious effort to maintain those boundaries appropriately then, you know, but like if there is a desire to sort of mush together more, then it would make sense for me to gradually disclose more and more about that partner to you as long as they're like okay with it, you know? But like if we haven't had that conversation yet, then I'm just erring on the side of like lack of disclosure so that first of all, that's not violating my partner's boundaries, but second of all, so that it doesn't blow up in our face, you know, because like that's also mortifying and I would literally rather die.
Getting caught with your pants down kind of a thing.
It's terrible.
No, thank you.
So
Yeah, and I think that's again too why I go back to the like treating every relationship as its own.
Yes.
Because like some people will be interested in those disclosures and like want like
some people
want to be a part of your life more and so on and so forth. Whereas some people will like want like they're dating you. Yeah. Want nothing else. Like
and that's
want
fine.
no part and that's totally fine. And
exactly.
If that's what they agreed upon, and that's why consent and communication I think is so fucking above all. Yeah. Because it makes such a difference too in the long term. And I think too, this comes up a lot, especially when in regards to polyamory and honestly like monogamous relationships. Yeah. Like people should be doing this anyways too, but like just like little state of the unions. And check-ins.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the live stream the other day, actually.
Oh, really? I must have missed it.
Yeah, with the Queer Ultimatum live stream.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Like, that like weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins are
whatever
so
works.
useful.
But yeah, like I think it helps, like especially with being polyamorous and stuff too. And I think it depends on too, at least for us, like the amount of partners and the amount of time we're at, and like just kind of like checking in and like seeing like how everyone's doing, what's
the vibe
what's working,
here,
what's not working, are there grievances to air, and like
I think continually assessing the like approach to the relationship or like the orientation of the relationship is also useful. There's an incredible tool called the Relationships Smorgasbord that a lot of people reference in polyamory. It's basically just like this big flowchart map thing of like different amounts of disclosure and investment and, you know, sort of escalation.
Connectedness.
In relationships. And the idea is that in polyamorous or, you know, like non-monogamous, like, you know, non-relationship escalatory relationship, ideally each relationship has the freedom to sort of pick things off of this smorgasbord in the same way that you would like a little charcuterie board, right?
Yes,
like you don't have to eat everything from left to right all the way to like clear the board.
No,
you just get to pick and choose like the little things. And so
nice.
So I think the like State of the Union thing is also nice for that purpose because like as you continue to become more intimate and like grow trust and whatever, continually revisiting this conversation, obviously not in like a fucking boner kill kind of way, but like, you know, in like a respectful, like loving kind of way, like what is it that we're aiming for here? You know, like do we eventually want to cohabitate? Do we want to share like pet ownership, or, you know, like for some people that question is kids
and childcare,
you know, like that kind of a thing. Like, do I want you to meet my kids that already exist, or do we want to have kids together, or like that kind of a thing, you know? And so like State of the Unions are also great for that, just as a
honestly,
like a FYI, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just helps keep everyone on the same page. Yes. I would say the other thing, one of the bigger things too, I think that maybe doesn't get talked about as much, or like is something you don't realize until you need it, or like people want to use it, is the like polyamory kill switch.
You mean like the veto power thing?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Are we talking about that? I only say that because somebody has vetoed me before and I'm bitter about it.
I know. And I think it's kind of a crazy, because like obviously all within, this is a hotly.
The veto power thing is difficult. Do you want me to explain what it is?
Yeah, please do.
So people use different terms for this. Again, everybody has a different word for everything in polyamory, it feels like. But I call it veto power. Some people call it the kill switch.
I think that's just me. Oh, have you heard other people say it?
I feel like I have.
Oh, it makes me feel way better.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Or like the nuclear button too,
okay,
you know.
Totally.
But
okay, cool.
It essentially refers to this phenomenon of like one partner's ability to say, I'm vetoing your relationship with this metamor.
Yeah, to like push the red button.
So in the like me, Aaron, and Sarah example, veto power would look like me getting to say, it makes me uncomfortable that you're in a relationship with Sarah, end it now, or I'm ending my relationship with you. Yeah. Which is, to me, like it feels really fucked up.
I don't like it. It makes me feel really bad. And again, this is another one of those things that like everybody is going to come to the table with their own perspectives and wants and needs.
What their experiences are. And like what their,
In my opinion, I think if you're going to have the veto power thing on the table, it feels important to at least make that disclosure up front.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of hard to have, like it's happened to me.
You're not just affecting yourself.
Yes. Yeah. It's happened to me where somebody got back together with a previous partner who was insecure about the hinge partner being polyamorous. And so basically like our relationship was terminated without my consent and without any notice.
Abruptly.
Yeah. And so I was kind of like, okay, fuck me, I guess. Yeah. Like, I guess I just won't have a seat at this table, which like
it's almost worse than getting dumped, honestly.
Yes.
I think so.
In hindsight, it was kind of illuminating because it was like, okay, well, like to me, at least in that particular arrangement, it felt like that partner didn't really value or respect my input about the future of our relationship. And so to be fair, that's not a relationship that I want to be in where my input's not valued.
Or can be just like...
But like having the awareness that your relationship could get vetoed at any time, in my opinion, is like an important thing to disclose.
Yeah.
I want to like tread carefully because again, I know that everybody will find their own,
of course,
comfort and like norms, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But I will say, within the polyamorous community, people don't really look kindly on the veto power thing.
It's extreme.
Yeah, it is a little extreme. It's difficult.
I do understand the need, like.
Sure.
Like, I understand when stuff gets out of hand or, like, can get out of hand or someone's feeling overwhelmed or, like...
Yeah, well, and life shit happens, too,
Life shit does
right?
definitely happen. Yeah, but I think
somebody's having a crisis or whatever and you need to, like, de-escalate and stuff. Like, that's fair.
Yeah, I think definitely the being open and upfront with it with your partners if you're going to do that. But I think that's just something to think about, too, as you're, like, getting into it. It's kind of like jumping off, you know, like you're not, like, putting your feet in the water, you know, like, you're jumping into the whole pool. Because it's kind of that thing, like, where you can get off the ride. I think the gravity and the weight you have to give different relationships and the, you know, like looking outside of yourself. If you are feeling uncomfortable, and this is why I think those State of the Unions are so important.
So critical.
Because if you're getting into a place where you're feeling out of control and out of your depth,
whack.
or which can be a totally scary feeling.
Yeah, and that's a real thing.
But like then to like call on your partner or your like primary or however you're doing it.
And your support systems and stuff.
Yeah, to like
right?
kind of like press the kill switch, then like the thing that's hard about it is too, you're not just like affecting one person.
Yes.
And I think like between like a resentment and like mistrust and like also it can like feel like very like whiplash, like blindsiding.
Yeah.
And so at least from what I've experienced or like heard from other people and like your experience with it.
Yeah. I was blindsided for sure.
Yeah. It's like it's just like how do you even just like mouth open?
Like, okay, thanks for telling me, I guess. Like you're not even asking for my input here.
Well, that's what I'm saying too. You're like totally taking because
someone's,
it's hard too.
Agency away.
Because it's like with the gray area stuff comes in, especially too if like you're like the hierarchical stuff. And I know that's why people lean away from that and stuff. And like if you were doing some of the solo poly.
Yeah.
And this is why I say like the different flavors of everything make it. That's why there's no. When people talk about polyamory, there's absolutely no one size fits all. In my opinion,
no,
because there's no way. Because like
nor should there be.
I don't think so either, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
I think that's what's so cool about it. But I think these are just things too. Like if you are new and you're just like getting familiar and stepping into it, like these are all things to think about. Like of course,
like what does
when
that
it looks
look like
good
for you?
And when it works and when everyone's on the same page, it's the coolest fucking thing in the world.
It's so great.
But
when it doesn't.
And
it's really hard.
It can get messy as fuck really fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's something important.
That's definitely something that we've experienced, like biting off more than we can chew and being like, fuck. I don't know how to do this.
And I feel like too, it always happens, like, because this is the way it works for me. As like I go from like very mild, boring, and like slow and steady to like
0 to 100.
Oh my god, now everything is out of control and there's like way too many people and I'm juggling like 55 things and now there's just
how do
like,
I do this ethically?
Yeah, and then like the giving, like I'm only giving like 5% of myself to everything then.
Yes.
And nothing is. No one's like actually getting your full attention.
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing about that. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Let me think. Oh, I remember.
Tell me.
The other thing about that too that was really illuminating for us when we were first starting out was remembering what you said earlier about like, you know, that you're making the decision for another person.
Yeah.
And I know that it sounds sort of silly and cliche, but like it is a thing that people repeat a lot too, that like even your metamors and people that you're not interacting with are still people. Right?
Yeah. It does sound like a silly thing to say, but like also really important to remember.
Yes. Well, and I think especially because there's the trope of like the married couple who wants to like spice up their marriage add a third person.
We only play together.
Yes. Yeah. That like we are looking for someone to like spice up our marriage and whatever.
The unicorn thing.
Yes. It's like very dehumanizing, right? Like
Yeah.
I've actually had people approach me and be like, do you want to be a surprise for my husband's birthday? And like, I'm not an object.
No.
And also you're just too cheap to hire a sex worker.
No.
Right?
Yes.
So like that approach is a thing that's like, again, not really widely
And I'm not amending that one. Like I stand by that because it shit is fucked
sucks.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like being you. Like
it feels really bad.
like obviously like the throuple and the triad thing can totally work.
Of course.
But, like that is a different.
That's
mood.
a different
That's a different
thing.
flavor than like,
Yes.
hey, I want to fuck you for one night
and like treat you like an object,
and like
right?
get the fuck out after we're done.
Because also, again, it's the issue where like we are prioritizing our relationship and we're treating you as like an accessory
Couples
and like a
privilege,
thing. Yeah, the couples privilege thing is like such a real
It's-
thing, and it's like so important to be aware of, because that's the other issue with like the veto power thing is like essentially you're saying like this relationship with this person is more valuable than this relationship with yours, and so therefore I'm entitled to make decisions about your life for you. Or actually we're entitled to make decisions about your life for you, which is just like not a fun thing to be on the receiving end of.
Because you're totally out of control. I mean, you're just.
It feels real bad.
And thankfully, yours had happened early on in the relationship.
Yeah. It wasn't like we were
like,
deep
if
in
that had
by any
been-
means. Well, yeah, and that's why I said like I'm kind of glad that that happened
Absolutely.
in the way that it did, because
That was
I would have
inevitable.
felt
That was coming.
I would have felt fucking gutted if I had ended up being in that relationship and like emotionally involved, only to find out that like basically I'm getting cast off like an object, you know? But like that is a real thing that people do, and it sucks, you know, it feels real bad. So I guess that's the other like piece of advice that we would give is just to be holding that in the front of your mind, right? That like it's, especially with the couples privilege thing, it's not uncommon to end up in this place where you're sort of thinking more abstractly about the people that you're in relationships with, but like it's not abstract to them, right? Like it's very real ass, emotional ass, like invested ass feelings that are gonna get squished if we're not being like ethical and considerate. You know?
Hurts my heart to think.
I know.
How do we always end up here at the end of the episodes?
I know. Why do we always talk about sad shit at the end of the episodes? Yeah, I don't know how we end up in this sad place at the end of all of the episodes.
So we do.
But it's fine. Listen, I think we answered all of the questions.
I think so too. If we didn't, leave us questions and we'll do a better job of answering questions, honestly.
Yeah,
if you guys
we're
want.
happy to talk about it. Obviously, we have no problem yamming on about our own thoughts and feelings
Thank
endlessly.
you for listening to us yammer on.
I am excited to talk more about polyamory because I really feel like it's a thing that we should just normalize in like a non-stigmatizing way.
Agreed.
You know, obviously everybody like polyamory is the umbrella term, and everybody will fall in a different place with their particular wants and needs. But like to me, especially I think to us, kind of, we conceptualize polyamory in like a more like literal interpretation of the word, like poly meaning many, amory meaning love. Like the idea that we could love and like equally care for friends and siblings and family members is like not a foreign thing. And so like, why does it have to be a foreign thing when we talk about romantic love, you know? And I just wish people would talk about that more, because there's also like
patriarchy.
Yeah, honestly. But there is very much the stigma of like, oh, you guys just want to like fuck anything that moves, right? And like,
let me tell you, that's not the case.
Yeah, for some people, that's like part of a sexual liberation, and that's wonderful for
cool.
them.
Also, too, if that is what you want to do, fucking do it.
That's great. But also, I think we should normalize that there are polyamorous people who don't view it that way, right? And that like it's not
also
just
ace people and
exactly. Like sex doesn't even have to be a part of polyamory at all. You know,
I've seen so many people and talked to so many people who are just like, oh, I'm just here to like make.
They just have the most beautiful little polycules of like ace people, and it makes my heart so happy.
I don't know why people are so goddamn judgmental. Like if you're not also like that's the other thing too. Sweet. Like sex doesn't have to justify a relationship.
Correct. Yeah, that's another part of the relationship escalator. But
also talk about
we don't have time to get into all of that today. So, do we have any recs for the week?
So mine actually is going to be I already forgot.
Oh no.
Do your rec real quick and I'll find it.
Okay. My rec this week, I just got back from a trip to New Orleans with my best friend. We had so much fun. But when I was there, one of the things I decided I wanted to do was buy some art from local artists.
We found such cool fucking art.
We stumbled upon this little like local art co-op, and all of the stuff in there was incredible. So I bought a couple of things, and then we just kept finding local artists and cool shit. So I just kept buying local art and cool shit.
Yeah. Way better than any souvenir
it was
you've
so
ever
fun.
brought back.
Yes,
it's so good.
you are a person who like is not really drawn to the idea of like souvenir magnets or stickers or whatever, which
personally,
if you are, it's super valid. But like I am not really.
Same.
We're just not stuff people.
But I love art.
Yes, and so that was our newfound discovery that we want to have a gallery wall in our like a big beautiful Maximus gallery wall that is filled with maximalist gallery wall that is filled with art we found from our travels in other places. So that's my rec, is buy local art every time you're on vacation and then keep them as fun little souvenirs because it'll make your heart happy.
My rec is if you got that instrument sitting in that corner.
Yeah,
just play it.
Play
just
it.
Play it a little, for like 30 seconds.
It's meant to be fun.
It is meant to be fun. I always get so caught up in that.
You do.
I do so badly with that. Like if you're not perfect at it, then I can't do it.
Yeah, and yes, you can.
I won't do it.
Art is meant to be experiential
shitty.
And fun and to bring you joy, not to be like a grade or a graded thing.
Thanks, being an overachieving.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Those are our recs. I love that both of our recs were art-based this week.
Oh, I love art.
That was so sweet. Okay, great. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
If you want to support the pod, you can like the videos. You can subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And then leave us 5-star reviews if you like the pod.
Thank you, guys.
That's it. We love you the most, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.